So I have 3 different investment accounts with 3 different brokerage accounts, and I'm going to tell you why. So the 3 different brokerage accounts I have are Robinhood, Charles Schwab, and Fidelity. And so I'm not going to knock anybody. I'm not saying do this, do that, but I just want to tell you why I have these 3 different investment accounts. Someone asked in the comments recently. So Robinhood, okay. I suggest that you use Robinhood if you are a newbie to invest in. Robinhood, the interface is really simple. It's basic. It's easy for people who are new to invest in. And so if you start out and you want to learn, how to buy a stock, how to, trade or how to sell, those different type of things. And I also believe, they also have where you can do research about the stock and learn about its history and stuff like that. And so it's really a good platform for beginners if you're new and you're starting out and you just want to learn. Right. So I strongly suggest Robinhood for beginners once you're starting out. Now, once you've graduated from learning the ropes, learning how to buy and sell and those different type of things, I strongly suggest you move your money out of Robinhood and go to a more reputable company. Now, this is not to say Robinhood is not reputable, but to be wealthy, do what the wealthy does, okay? And I'm going to see if any of you are going to tell me of anybody who is wealthy using Robinhood. Anyways, I digress. So I'm not telling you that Robinhood is not reputable, but it has, for me, there are different times where you're stuck. You can't buy a company, you can't buy shares, or you can't execute an order and stuff like that. And so for me, that's a red flag, right? That's big red flag. One of the worst things is if you want to execute an order and your app is telling you can't do it. So yeah, right? And so how I started out first, when I was a beginner, and I'm not telling you anything that I don't do. When I was a beginner, I started out with Robinhood, and then gradually I saw my money increasing, and then I decided, time to move out, right? And so I moved out, and that's where we split to where we have an account for our kids in Charles Schwab, and then we have another account for retirement in Fidelity, right? Now, I will say a disclaimer. Well, before the disclaimer, I do want to say if you've watched this far, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so that you can get the videos once we post them weekly. Yes. Now, the disclaimer is when you're transferring your money out of Robinhood or from any investment account to another, there is a fee that you will have to incur. So at the time when I was doing my transfer, I had to pay, I think, around $75 to each account, right? So when I transferred from Robinhood to Fidelity, I had to pay $75. And then when I transferred from Robinhood to Charles Schwab, it was TD Ameritrade at the time, I still had to pay $75. So that is something to keep in mind when you're doing your transferring out. Now, some might say, why don't I just start with Fidelity or Charles Schwab or, there are other Vanguard, there are other platforms that you can trade or buy shares in a company. But these were my 2. Why don't I suggest that you start out with these? Is because it can get complicated. Sometimes I'm trying to execute my own order. I'm like, where is the buy button? How do I buy? Especially if you're on your phone. These brokerage accounts are more so for you when you're using your laptops or a tablet, so you can see clearer the different, things with your stocks. Now, this is not to say you cannot become, start as a beginner and start with Fidelity or Charles Schwab or whatever other platform other than Robinhood. You might not want to incur that $75. However, if you want to really learn how to sell and buy before you really dive into those reputable companies, I strongly suggest you start with Robinhood. Because like I said, I've been in the game for several years, and sometimes I'm going to execute my orders and I'm like, Lord, what do I do again? It is complicated. Some of the platforms are really, really complicated, and you might have to watch to do videos, right, on them. So anyways, again, if you're a newbie, you can start out with Robinhood, especially if you're teaching kids or anything like that. You can start out with Robinhood. But then once you graduate from the newbie beginning stage, you want to go to a more reputable company. So I hope this was helpful, and we will see you next time.